Good morning and welcome back to Horizon. I'm Jason. After a long hiatus, I guess we're back for a little bit. So, first up, for anyone in Houston, we hope you're staying safe. We hope that you are getting the help that you need. If you're watching this, please do not hesitate to ask for help from local officials, whether it's putting stuff in your roof, saying you get rescued, and if you're able to help, please do so because obviously there's a tremendous amount of devastation and really we cannot say enough to hope that everyone there is okay. Now, while that's obviously a really big topic at the moment, I think we also need to explore what's going on in Washington. There seems to be a lot of stuff that's being changed, shaken up. There's a lot of conflict again in Trump administration. So let's start with Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka. Now, these really represent the two of the three part of the triumvirate, I would say, of the nationalist fervor that really got Trump into office. The last one left is Stephen Miller, his speechwriter, and presumably he will probably get forced out as well. Now it seems interesting because these people do not seem to be willing to just give up and say, okay, Trump's lost our vote. Instead, they seem to be interested in doubling down and having this idea that okay, now the handcuffs are off, so let's go to quote unquote war. Now, what that's actually going to mean, who knows? I just think that it's kind of very interesting that these people found that they couldn't get very little accomplished in the White House, but yet somehow they think that there's going to be more accomplished outside of it. So, I guess we'll see. And I think that what you're seeing with that is that's now also emboldened more organizations to come out and into the political fray on the right side. We now have Sheriff Joe Arpaio, which, whether you like him or don't, is obviously a fire rod in terms of attracting both criticism and support. And he has now said that he's more wanting to be involved in the political arena. The NRA said they're kind of sick of being dragged through the mud. And even most recently, just today, there's been a lawsuit filed against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which I would say used to be much more about tracking hate groups, trying to bring people together, be inclusive, but has recently devolved into basically anyone who is conservative or fundamentally Christian, they label as a hate group. Now, some of them are probably hate groups. However, there's definitely a big group that are not. And for the fact that it's become that anything that you may say is right of center can get labeled a hate group, you're definitely walking a very narrow line. It's going to be really interesting to see that, supposedly a lot of conservatives felt that, oh, we're going to get in power and, oh, Trump's going to help us a lot. But it really seems that hasn't happened. And so I would imagine the tactics are going to change as we gear up for the midterms in 2018, even though that's not really clear what it's going to be, other than people are saying, look, enough is enough. We want to do something different. Now, moving on to technology, the really big story this morning is that the head of Expedia is now going to be the head of Uber. Now, supposedly, Mr. Immelt from GE and Meg Whitman from Hewlett Packard Enterprise were also considered. I personally think that Jeffrey Immelt would have been a terrible choice, considering he did not do the best of job at GE. I think it's good that he turned it down. And Meg Whitman as well, I would say, has recently fallen under the okay category. And it sounded like the only reason that she was going to take the position would be if she had complete control. And I think that what Uber's board, and particularly Travis Kalanick, was looking for was much more of, hey, someone who's going to lead technically but still consult with Travis. And that would appear to be the situation that was reached with the new CEO. So we'll see how that goes, whether Travis continues to get pushed aside or Travis kind of is the quote unquote puppet master who's still, pulling those strings, trying to say, ooh, drive here, do this, don't do that. Or if he's just going to be more like Steve Jobs, where maybe he'll just go out into the wilderness and then somehow have a triumphant return. Who knows? I guess we'll see. And then moving internationally, in France, Emmanuel Macron, who was supposed to, bring people together, kind of be a counterpoint to the right-left breakdown that has plagued France for the past few decades, has essentially already managed to do worse than Francois Hollande, who was pretty much universally hated in France. And I think this largely centers around that Macron is trying to put through some very difficult changes that are not going to be very popular. He's trying to reform the workforce. He's trying to make France competitive again. But I think that the way he's doing it is probably not handled the best, and I think it also doesn't help that he doesn't exactly seem to have the most experience with the French political system, and so I think he may be in a little over his head. I mean, fortunately, he has time. Fortunately, that he may just have the attitude of, look, I only want to do this for one term, so make his changes, hopefully get out. Maybe there'll be someone who can come replace him. But I think it reflects an overall problem. It's not just in France, it's in England. You could say it's here. There's really a lack of political leadership or a lack of people who have new ideas. It just seems to be a lot of circulating the same one. And even people who are supposed to disrupt, once they get in, it seems like, okay, you've done everything that this other guy did. So whether he'll be successful or not, I don't know. Again, I guess we'll wait and see. Moving on to China now, their big issue is now we're starting to hear rumors again of Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme, particularly centered around the iron industry. Now, why this is believed to be a Ponzi scheme is because essentially iron is produced to build more factories, to build more ports, to build more highways, all for the goal of producing more iron. So it's not actually going into the market as much as just being used to grow a bigger and bigger pot. Now, who knows if this is actually true? This is definitely just opinions. However, there does seem to be some stuff that's uneasy considering the crackdown on uh, high net worth Chinese individuals. Most recently, there's this rumor going around that the chairman of Dalian Wanda is now unable to leave China. That would certainly put a wrench in things. That's the equivalent of Bill Gates suddenly being unable to leave the U.S. And I think if that happened, people would become worried. So I don't know. I don't know if this is signs of cracks in the systems. I don't know if this is just a sign of the gearing up to the political leadership. I mean, I guess we'll just see. But I think it's also telling that China is also now having issues going abroad to acquire companies because before the model was, get government debt or government support to you as Chinese company A, go to the US or Europe, buy property, buy a company, and really just grow your impact. Great Wall Motors is trying to buy Jeep, but it seems like that probably won't happen just because of that's a very high profile car brand, and a lot of people from the US government are not going to be comfortable for lending more car technology to China. So really I'd say that China is definitely backing itself into a hard place, which is probably going to have leave China and Russia to try to come together again, even though their history has been a lot of weaving in and out, liking each other, not liking each other, hating each other, loving each other. So, who knows how that's going to go. And finally, in sports, we had a very exciting boxing match with McGregor and Mayweather. It was certainly far better than Mayweather Pacquiao. I think McGregor certainly held his own, but by the end, he looked gassed. And it's hard to also say that if he had fought Mr. Mayweather in his prime, if this had been even close at all, it's definitely saying a lot that at 40 years old, Floyd Mayweather comes out of his break to win this fight in the 10th round. Really, just prove that he's so God. It proved that he's undisputed, the best ever, and really just kind of lay it all out there. So congratulations, Mr. Mayweather, on 50-0. And finally, in esports, my favorite sport, League of Legends, we had TSM defeating Dignitas, looking strong, looking ready to go and take another summer championship. They'll be facing Immortals, and then Dignitas will be facing CLG, which will be an interesting match as well. And then finally, in Korea, IMT defeated Longju Gaming, which is a really big deal because SKT has essentially been the Yankees of esports and have just won everything. For them to get beat potentially opens them up to having some competition in Worlds, which start in around October. Oh, and college football is back, so that will be fun. Anyways, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye now.